Episode 3, where we give the players a damn good ranking and have a little mass debate about it afterwards. There's been a little bit of argument between myself and Geo. A couple of contentious issues, largely in agreement, though, I would suggest, Geo. The first 2 episodes, if you've not gone and watched them, go and have a look now. This is episode 3. Episode 4 will be tomorrow over on the main channel. There's a couple of players I'm really keen to have a chat about on this one, Geo. So get the ball rolling, my friends.
Well, where would you like to start? Or shall we just stick with my order?
No, we'll stick with your order. Go on.
Yeah, that'll stop me getting confused. It's Paqueta.
Very poor. Very poor. Very, very poor. Just in case you haven't gone back and seen the other ones, we've not really factored in too many mitigating circumstances. It's really how you've performed. So we are aware that some of these things, we mentioned Harrison Ashby on a previous one, that's down to the manager, but it's still, as you know, it's very hard to say. He's been good this season. Paqueta, we've seen some flashes, Geo, and that's all we've seen. I will put the mitigation there. I don't think he's playing in his preferred position. By the time this video goes live, we'll have seen Brazil play. I don't have that luxury yet. I think he plays deeper. I think he seems to play as a number 8 for Brazil. David Moyes is trying to make him into a number 10. So there's your part of your mitigation. There'll be other excuses. But I do think what you do have to offer up is the fact that this is our record signing. £50 million. This guy should be a superstar for West Ham. West Ham can't afford to buy too many of these players. Does £50 million buy you your best player at Man City? No, it doesn't. But at West Ham, this has to be a guy that makes the difference. And he started off quite slowly. Then he looked like, for a couple of games, and I mean a smidgen, he might get better for a little bit. Then he got an injury and he's come back and he's looked awful, I've got to say. I think he looks really, really off the pace. Not picked up the sharpness of the Premier League. Doesn't seem to be able to pick up the correct positions. And he has a lot of flicks and passes which are not read by his teammates. Some of them are sort of, as I mentioned before, I think his radar's a bit off. He seems to lack accuracy in what he does. That being said, I think the 1+ point is just before we closed down for the World Cup, he did start getting into sort of goal scoring positions, which I do take some hope from as well. But £50 million player, very poor for me.
I think I would personally would go with quite poor. I would go up a tier. Still poor though, but I would go up a tier because of that factors around David Moyes. Because I think there's another player we're going to get onto in Thomas Soucek. I think we're going to have to offer up those factors for him as well, and I think that's going to have a bearing on what tier I want to put Soucek in. So I want to do that with Paqueta as well, and also the difference between, say, Soucek and Paqueta is settling into the Premier League. Not every player requires a bedding in period. Some players come in and straight away, bam, they're up to speed like they played in the Premier League before. I think you can tell Paqueta hasn't. He's taken a touch, going to take another one, and the ball's getting nicked off him. He almost looks a bit surprised. Oh, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Why is this guy closing me down already? Sure. And I do think that is just a player needing to adapt to the Premier League. He's not had that many games. He's been here for a few months now. But that's settling into London life. Time scale in terms of days and months and weeks is settling into off the pitch. On the pitch, I think a large part of it comes to minutes on the pitch in terms of settling in. And he's not had loads of it. Some of the minutes for West Ham have actually been in European competitions where that suits him. You've seen it. A, the opposition was poorer anyway, but B, the pace of the game is generally a little bit slower. He's got more time in the ball. We've seen it. We've seen him, what he can do when he came on away to whoever it was with Bryce and Scamacca, and the three of them turned the game on its head, and he set Scamacca up. Wonderful football, suits him. The following game, you take him into the Premier League, he's struggling again. And that's, to me, is evidence of a player that is, A, being utilised incorrectly, but B, just needs to settle in, and you've got to give him time. And that's why I would put him in quite poor, Gonzo. I think he has been that, but like I said, I think there's glimpses of quality in there. I think he is trying to be a bit too adventurous sometimes. And I have faith that it will come good eventually. And when I say eventually, I don't know how long. Will it come good in the Arsenal and Brentford Leeds games? I'm not too sure, if I'm honest with you. I think it will come a little bit later on the season, almost like Carlos Tevez-esque, where you just have to almost put up with him learning, and then you'll see the rewards for it at the end of it. It's just a case of being patient. but we're not really in the position where we can be that patient. So we do need to see more from him. I'm still putting him in quite poor. I don't think he's been good. He has been quite poor. I expect more from him, but I just think there's reasons for his lack of performances thus far. So can I win this one, please? And
You can. I don't disagree with those reasons. I think they're all valid. I'm just disappointed, really.
Well, naturally, let's move on to Thomas Soucek then. I've got him here. So where would you like to put him? I think I know what you're going to do. And I'm going to agree with you.
Go on.
You're going to put him in all right.
I am. And you know what I'm going to say now.
You say it. And before he says it, I agree with what Gonzo's way to say. I hope. As long as he doesn't say anything he shouldn't.
Yeah, it was Thomas Soucek that stole Jesse Lingard's watch, and Geo agreed. That's a joke. That was a joke. It wasn't Thomas Soucek.
Well, it might have been. We don't know. We don't think it was.
We don't know. Can you imagine if Jesse was going around? Excuse me, you got the time? Yeah. Oh, don't. That's my watch.
Yeah, bought it from Ben Johnson.
Absolutely.
I got it from Nikola Vlasic. Oh, he's in Italy. Oh, well.
Damn.
They didn't play together, did they? Lingard and Vlasic. Ignore that minor point. But anyway, Soucek.
So he's never stolen a watch in his life, obviously. Particularly not Jesse Lingard's watch. Let's just make that very clear. Thomas Soucek is deployed as a defensive player by David Moyes. It's hard to assess him against his goal scoring of the goals. I reckon David Moyes, what Soucek asked him to do, David Moyes does. I reckon a lot of the time, I know he started getting subbed recently, when they're in the dressing room afterwards and David Moyes is telling people off or whatever, I'd imagine he looks at Soucek and says, well done, you did your interceptions, you did your tackles, you did your headers today. Excellent. The difference between Soucek and Paqueta is, for me, it's not like I have some other stuff that I can praise Paqueta for. So Paqueta doesn't score the goals or doesn't get the assists. Oh, that's all right. He had loads of successful dribbles, or he had won loads of headers, or there's nothing else. It's not like he is being played out of position massively. Do you know what I mean? Whereas he's taken Soucek away from being like a goal-scoring midfielder into literally almost a third centre half. And when I look at him actually this season, if you look at that and you think, okay, I'm going to base this player and assess this player on headers, tackles, and interceptions and work rate, actually, he's done bloody well. I know he can't pass his way up a paper bag. But I can't even
that's why he's all right and not higher up.
Exactly.
The defensive things is what pushes them up the tier list. But it's the in possession things that drags him back down. And that's why he's all right. He's defensively really good. In possession really poor, so we're meeting in the middle kind of thing. I agree with you, actually. I think he's doing the role that the manager's asked of him, and what me, you, and loads of other West Ham fans want to see is different to what David Moyes wants to see, and we're accessing him on that. So I agree with you. I knew you were going to put him in there, and I agree. All right for me too. Randolph, I mean, we're just going to slap him for the sake of it. All right.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even have a discussion about him, really. Yeah, well, it could almost be in any one of those bottom three, really. What can you say? You can't say
we'll stick him in all right. Lanzini?
I think he's been all right this season, actually. I think he's been all right, Gio. In fact, had he played more in the Premier League, I'd suggest his form has been better than that. But I will bring it down because it's been in the Europa League. Actually, Again, I've looked through the book, look at the player ratings. But when he's played, he's done a good performance by and large. I think he's in quite decent nick actually. So, but against lesser opposition. So we'll just leave him as all right.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that category is perfect for him. Actually, he's done what has been asked of him, but he hasn't excelled so much so that I want to see him in the Premier League a bit more often. Well, to summarise it, let's discuss Lanzini's current situation. Are you glad Lanzini's still at West Ham? Yes. Do you think Lanzini's had a good season? Yes. Are you looking forward to seeing more of him? Possibly. Would you give him a new contract, considering his contract runs out at the end of the season? Probably not. No. And there you go. That's why he goes in the right category for me. And second last player is Geo Antonio.
Well, quite poor, I think. Yeah, it has to be said. I think he's not he's not put the pressure on Scamacca that he should have done and could have done.
And Scamacca's shirt's there to be snatched as well.
Yeah, at the moment, it really is, because he's started well and he's tailored off somewhat, So, and I think Mikel Antonio should really be putting so much pressure. That's what I wanted, competition for places, and I don't think he's made it that at all. I've been a little bit, in many respects, a little bit disappointed on how almost it feels like an acceptance from Antonio. I was expecting a little bit more fight and battle for his place, actually, a little bit more offence taken. How dare you rock up here and think you're taking my shirt? I've been leading the line here for the last couple of seasons. I'm the number 9 and all that sort of stuff. He's been a little bit pleasant, actually, for my liking. I know he gets the ump sometimes. He don't win a foul and whatnot on the pitch, but I just wanted to see a little bit more. And he's retained his fitness, Geo, by and large. I know something happened in a game against Leicester, something personal. I don't know, if it's family business. I don't want to talk about it anyway. But aside from that, he's been fit and available. Just not put any pressure on him at all. He just doesn't look anything. Doesn't look when Antonio's at his best. You know about it. He's not been near his best this season.
Yeah, I've been disappointed by him, actually, because I was hoping A, if competition for placement, but B, just a bit of a rest for him. And Moyes has managed him quite well, I have to say, this season. That game in Romania, it would have been easy to take Antonio over and say, well, Scamacca's starting Sunday, mate, so you're coming with me. And he didn't do that. He left him back home. Moyes has managed Antonio's fitness as if Antonio's still the only striker at the club, if that makes sense. He's not rinsed everything out of him because Scamacca's here. He still managed him delicately. And we're not seeing the benefits of that. And he's not in the team at the minute. And it's not because of what Scamacca's doing that's keeping him out of it, which is what we'd hope for. It's because he's not good enough to take a poor performing striker's position. He's just performing just as poorly as what Scamacca is at present. It's not good. I'm very disappointed by Antonio, actually. If I had to do my top 3 disappointing players this season, Jared Bowen's number 1. I think I'd make a case for Mikel Antonio being number 2 or 3, because I was expecting some goals. I was expecting him to come on when we're losing, which has been quite a lot this season. I've been expecting him to come onto the pitch with Scamacca and look good. And when they have been on the pitch together, there's been nothing between them. There's no chemistry, nothing. I've failed to see anything that makes me think, I can't wait to see them two together. It's got to the point, actually, that we were losing. Scamacca's on the pitch, and Antonio's coming on. I'm actually hoping Antonio's coming on for Scamacca, and we're changing something else. We're doing something else elsewhere in the team, because that partnership, it's only limited time that we've saw. I've not seen much from them either. Antonio, quite poor, and I almost talked myself into demoting him further, actually, but I'll leave him in quite poor. And that leads us to the last player of the video, Gonzo, Lucas Fabianski.
Yeah, remarkable, actually.
Who would have thought
Fabianski?
it?
I know,
Well,
it is.
People, actually, a lot of our subscribers really like him, but there's
one of our best players this season.
That's somebody that's risen to the challenge of competition.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is indeed. We even saw a penalty save, didn't we? Of course, who didn't watch that penalty save? I think if it only had been between the sticks against Blackburn, I think he's seen off for the moment the challenge of Areola. I think there's been some wonderful saves and some really good performances this season. By the way, some really well
Wolves though. That was all easy saves for him to make, weren't it?
What remind me of the Wolves one?
That's the game.
I did. Yeah, they all long range shots, wasn't it? Yeah, all that nonsense, wasn't it? Yeah, I did give him maybe a low mark, but yeah, there's no. I don't have an agenda with Fabianski. If I think he's played well, I'll say it, and I've given him 9 out of 10 this season and stuff like that. And I think he's been really, really good. And I'm pleased. I'm delighted. I'm sure Areola won't be quite as delighted with it, but. Fair enough. I've criticised David Moyes an awful lot this season for lots of different things that he deserves them for. But I think it's important that if you call him and you credit him when he gets something right. And I think his decision to stick with Fabianski as the number 1 goalkeeper for this season, I think he's been proven right. Actually, I think he looks like the better goalkeeper at the moment. So fair. I mean, it does bring a different question, which is why have you paid so much in wages for somebody at second choice goalkeeper? But hey, he had a lot of money to spend. That's fine. He needed to make the signing anyway. But really like it. Good. Really pleased about it as well, mate. Really pleased for him.
Yeah, in episode 1, when we discussed Creswell, I said there's 4 players in contention for Ham of the Year thus far. For me, Fabianski is on that list, as well as Said Benrahma, obviously. I think he's had a really, really good season. And I know what you're saying about proving Moyes right. It's hard to argue that phrase, but I think you said he's picked the best goalkeeper this season. I would push back against that a little bit and say, but Areola could have performed just as well. We don't actually know. Now, that's not talking down fact. Like, you know, me and Gonzo do those player ratings. Gonzo can't find his book, but I can. It's here, right? We do those player ratings after every single game. Fabianski, for me, is up there in the top 3 or 4 for the ratings so far this season. So it's not that I think Fabianski is poor. It's just that I think Areola is a really good goalkeeper as well. And I guess, to some extent, credit to the club and credit to the manager that we've got 2 really high standard goalkeepers at West Ham at the minute. We've got 2 keepers capable of being our number 1. I think Fabianski's having a fantastic season, far better than I thought he would. Last season, I thought he was a little bit off it, and I was a bit worried coming into this one, but I was hoping Areola would be number 1 and Fabianski. The succession would take place, the switchover would happen over the summer. When we came back, Fabianski in goal, let's start saying, hang on a minute, what about, I'm not sure about this. Well, actually, I'm happy with it at this point. The switchover is going to happen at some point, but for now, Fabianski's playing fantastic.
Totally, mate. Totally agree. Is that us wrapped up for today, is it?
Yeah.
There we go.
One more episode to go.
There we go. One more episode. Episode probably tomorrow. We think tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow. Over on the main channel. Some juicy players left, by the way. There you go. Spoiler.
Well, they can work it out, can't they? All they have to do is have a look at who's underneath.
Yeah, anyway, that's the one player I'm really looking forward to discussing over there. So don't forget to tune in tomorrow for that. And don't forget, let us know whether we're right or wrong and who are your halfway through the season players in contention for Hammer of the Year.